Welcome, whānau, and welcome back to another week of Beyond the Veil podcast. And this week, and from every week onwards, from here on in, we will have the lovely Kels from the Quantum Foundation with us.
Hiya.
Kels is our lead investigator at the Quantum Foundation, and of course, we've welcomed back Susie. So from now on, it'll be us three leading you down the rabbit hole. But before we get started, I've got some paranormal news this week. Yeah, it's not often that we have it, but we've got it this week. So I noticed the other day, I read an article in the Waikato Times about the Chateau Tongariro and what's happening with regards to it. So they're not quite sure yet still what's happening. The government is supposedly weighing up their options. But this famous haunted hotel, very ritzy 5-star, well, was a 5-star haunted hotel in New Zealand, has been shut for the last 2.5 years due to the fact that it's not earthquake safe. There has just been a 15,000 signatured petition taken to Parliament by the Mayor of Whakapapa, I think it is. Making noise about the government stepping in and doing something to save the building, because they're talking about demolishing it, as well as potentially some investors buying or leasing it off Department of Conservation. So at least that's been delivered. So fingers crossed that we'll hear some news shortly about that one. Yeah, let's hope it's saved, because we don't have a lot of historical buildings in New Zealand, and they're knocking them down left, right, and centre at the minute. And in bigger news, the Conjuring House, and interesting, we're doing the Smurls, the Conjuring House is up for sale. So it is going to be auctioned, and it's been taken back by the bank. It's been repossessed by the bank. And it is going to be auctioned on Halloween.
Of course.
So it's going to be very interesting to see who's going to purchase that, because I do know that the people who've purchased the Warren's house and museum building, the YouTuber Elton Castee and Matt Rife, are very, very interested in buying it, and they did approach the crazy lady who owned it. But she said no way, she would never ever sell the property. But now that the mortgage has been defaulted on, she doesn't have an option. So I guess there's one potential buyer. And of course, Mr. Bilbo Baggins, I'm sure he'll be rubbing his hands together and trying to come up with a way of buying it. No doubt. So let's get on with what we're going to talk about this evening. I see that we've got quite a few people in already. So hello, Tone. Nice to see you, mate. What's shaking? Well, hopefully not the land in New Zealand. That's a dead cert. Evening, Lona Muffin. Nice to see yous. Everybody else that's in that hasn't commented, lovely to see you. Or not see you, as the case may be. So we're doing I know last week we spoke about the Smurl case versus the Conjuring movie, and we highlighted quite a few things in there that were not true to form, if you like, excuse me a minute. Have to say hello to a very, very old friend of mine. Hey, Gabrielle. Nice to see you, honey. All right, so we highlighted quite a few instances there where the movie had completely gone loco and gone off the track with regards to the truth of the matter. This week, we're going to do a little bit of a dive into the actual case itself. So Susie and Kels have been doing their research. Susie's been doing her research on the priests. Kels has been doing her research on the case. So that's what we're going to present to you this evening. So please excuse my cat meowing in the background.
Can't even hear him.
That's good. I can, believe you me. So without further ado, we'll get straight into it. So I'm going to drive the PowerPoint presentation this evening. We've got some photos and newspaper clippings. So I'll pop that up on the screen now.
Cool.
And we can get down and jiggy with it.
Alrighty, so that photo that's up, just as a reminder, if anyone's not familiar, that's the Smurl family in front of the duplex. So we've got Janet and Jack, the parents, and Heather and Dawn, and the two twins, Karen and Sharon. And on the next slide, we've got John and Mary Smurl, who were Jack's parents. They lived on the other side of the duplex, so each family shared half of the duplex. And the last slide there is again the Smurl family, but we've got their doggo Simon in that shot, and he played a part in the story as well.
And he wasn't a golden retriever like the movie said he was.
No. He didn't even feature in the 1991 version, I don't think. So I just wanted to say there's a couple of notes to make on my sources of information. One of the main ones was the book The Haunting that was published in paperback in 1988, written by Robert Curran in conjunction with the Smurls and the Warrens. There should be a slide coming up with the author's note. Yep, there it goes. There's a couple of things, just inconsistencies that kind of contradict each other. There was a mention of 28 other people who have experienced supernatural phenomena in connection with the Smurls. They're not mentioned anywhere in the book. Names have been changed. Minor liberties have been taken with chronology, dialogue, and stuff for dramatic effect. And one character was even claimed to be a composite of three different ones. And in the book, he is described as the demonologist's apprentice. Now, I don't know how one person can be three different characters, but whatever. So the general gist is there's a lot of inconsistencies in the book, and it's claimed to be a true story. But with all those changes, how can it be anywhere near true? So just...
Yeah.
Something to keep in mind as we go through.
So he was he the one that was the demonologist, the one that is made up of three different people? Was he the one that was supposedly the aide to the demonologist?
Yep. So when I was reading the book, I actually literally just skipped anything that, because there'd be just chapters based on him every so often through the book. I just ignored it. I was like, it's not even a real person.
Exactly. Okay. Right.
So anyway, that's just something to note. The book has been criticised as well by journalists who have said he forsakes the principle of his trade to give readers a one-sided account of what did or didn't occur. And reading the book, that's pretty true. It's very one-sided. It's all everything happened. There's no look at the other side. So, which is disappointing for a journalist because they're supposed to be objective.
Yeah, you wouldn't have expected that, would you?
Well, no, but yeah, you've got to wonder. So there was a bit of a contradiction between the book and the interviews with the Smurls. The first thing that stuck in my mind when I read the book was the timeline. Looking at the timeline in the book and the timeline on the YouTube video of the Warrens interviewing the Smurls. So there should be a slide coming up.
There is. I'll play that video right now so that we can have a look at that, because that's fairly interesting.
We moved in here in October of 73. My mother and father moved in here in December of 73.
Oh, very close together, just a matter of a couple of months.
Correct.
That's right. How long were you in this home with your family before you became aware of the fact that things of a paranormal nature were occurring?
Approximately 1 year ago.
1 year ago, in 1985,
yes,
you became aware that something paranormal.
Right, there you go. So it says 1985, when they moved in 73, there's
Mhm.
no mention in that interview whatsoever of any activity. Quite categorically asked, when did you first become aware of any form of paranormal activity? About a
Mhm.
year ago. In 1985, yes.
And all the
Wow.
newspaper articles corroborate that timeline. Yet
Interesting.
in the book, and this is just an example of where the timeline starts, there
Whoops,
was a
sorry.
chapter called The Stain.
Oh, I was right.
Yeah, no, that's the one. So this is one of the first incidences that's recorded in the book. And as you can see, it's January 1974. And there's a whole timeline of events that go from 74 right through to 85. So you kind of have to wonder.
Can I just make a note of why they made such a big deal about the stain on the carpet?
I don't know.
When quite clearly it could have been delivered to them with the stain on it.
Yeah.
And you clean something, and when it's wet,
Mhm.
honestly, it can look like the stain's gone or the spot's gone. But when it
Yep.
dries, it can be present again.
Yeah.
I just don't get the palaver that's been made about a stain on a carpet, quite frankly, as something being paranormal.
No. And I guess the fact too that eventually after 2 or 3 times they were like, ugh, so they took it to the dump and got a new one and had no issues. So that says to me it wasn't paranormal. It was the stuff you were using or something wrong with the fabric.
Mm.
Mm.
Hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, like I say, it keeps going all the way through from 74. So that's a 12-year difference. But you've got to remember the book was written after everything sort of calmed down. So was it a retrospective decision by the publishers or whoever to go, let's stretch it out 12 years, it makes it more dramatic, etc., etc., etc. And like it says in the author's note, they have taken certain liberties. But if that timeline is true, why would you wait 12 years to get help?
Well, also there's taking liberties, and then there's taking the piss, isn't there?
Yeah, this is well more than taking liberties. Like, even if they'd stuck to the facts, it would be hearsay, but it's even worse hearsay now.
She looks like she's conjuring something there.
Yeah. So that's Janet showing how high she was supposedly levitated off the bed. So I'm just going to run through just a general overview of alleged activity. So there was the SA claims, which I'm not going to go into too much for obvious reasons. That slide there is Janet showing how she was levitated above the bed. She claims she was levitated with the mattress above the bed. She claims she was levitated and thrown across the room. And then you've got the confirmation of Heather when she was 13 in 1985, which is where the light fitting above the kitchen table fell down on her just as her mother was fixing up her confirmation dress. So that was interesting. And we've got other things such as Shannon being thrown or levitated. She's one of the twins. There was an incident where apparently she got from her bedroom to the bottom of the stairs, didn't remember how. Her parents hadn't heard her walking across the hallway, which was apparently very creaky. So, but there's no evidence for that. Claims of shadow figures, demonic manifestations, wardrobes opening and shutting. And there's a slide coming up, slide 8, from the Newcastle News.
Yep, it's up.
And they claimed that she's pulled from beds, slapped, viciously scratched by invisible hands. The dog Simon was attacked on multiple occasions. They hear screams, moans, pig grunts, hoofbeats, disembodied voices calling their names, stenches, odors, sometimes so thick it's suffocating, claimed in the book. Objects move by themselves, they disappear, then reappear, and fog materialises in the bedrooms. And then more claims from the Delaware County Times. They told reporters, the Smurls, about being grabbed and slapped by invisible hands, hearing pigs grunting, dogs growling, and seeing things fly around the house. It's pretty fantastical.
Yeah,
And
it
yet,
is.
we don't have any evidence yet.
Mm.
So just going to go into a little bit of a criticism of the Smurl's techniques, and this is not a personal thing, it's just a subjective, objective thing from the point of view of an investigator who's honest, has some integrity, like we like to think we do.
You mean, you said the Smurls techniques? You mean the Warrens?
Sorry, the
techniques?
Warrens.
Yep.
Yeah. My bad. Listening to the interviews and reading the interviews in the books, they ask a lot of leading questions. So those are questions that you can only give a yes or no answer. So they're kind of guiding the narrative. For example, they'd say, the activity's upstairs, isn't it? This happens, doesn't it? You didn't see this, did you? You can only have a yes or no answer. They refuse to have anyone independent come and take data for evidence. And to this date, in a lot of their cases, they claim to be taking all this evidence, but no one's actually ever seen it. Like no photos, no video footage, no baseline readings for temperature, etc. They just expect. Sorry.
Just going to stop you there. I've just got a question, and it's a good one, so I'm just going to pop it up. Sorry to interrupt. But Tone says, is it fair to say that the panel is somewhat skeptical about the authenticity of the entire haunting? I will respond to that first. I wouldn't say that I'm skeptical about the haunting itself. What I would say is that I'm skeptical about the lack of data surrounding it.
Yeah.
There's been nothing produced. They say there was 28 people that witnessed this sort of thing, but they don't name those 28 people, and you never hear from those 28 people. So, like I said last week, I would never turn around and tell somebody that what they've experienced is rubbish, because I didn't experience it. I don't know. But I think the whole case is flawed from the outset because of the way it was investigated. Or should I say maybe the way it wasn't investigated?
Yeah, lack thereof.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Well, Susie, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that. There's just so much that doesn't quite add up. And, dates don't line up, names don't line up, between books and newspapers and everything else. So I think there's just, a few things.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, if there was empirical evidence, like I say, the Warrens say they record this, they record that, but no one knows anything of it. No one else seems to have taken any photos. Well, they had cameras back then, so why not? Things have happened and they just don't, there's nothing to corroborate it. So it's literally we're basing our opinions on hearsay. So
yeah, pretty much. He said, she said stuff. That's it. That's all we've got.
Yeah. We've got nothing to go on. There's no facts whatsoever. So it's kind of hard to make a judgment, but it does make you wonder, why not?
Yep. Sorry to interrupt, Kels. I just thought it was a great question. And thanks, Tony, for popping it up there. It was an awesome question. Back to you, Kels.
All good. Excuse me. So in 1983, Jack Smurl had surgery for water on his brain. He'd had meningitis earlier on, and that caused some memory loss. And then he had that surgery. So you've kind of got to look at this sort of thing as well when you're looking at people's experiences. Like, they may think they're genuinely having an experience, but the role of an investigator is to come in and gather data to say either way whether it's happening. So experts have said it's quite possible they may have just started with a hallucination or a memory fault, and it's escalated into a type of mass hysteria. And remembering all the kids in the house at the time were, preteen or teenagers. There's a slide coming up from the Indiana Gazette, Tracy. You got that one up? Slide 11.
That one?
Yeah,
nope.
Sorry, the resolution's not that great. So we've got
the Warrens.
Oh, slide 11.
Slide 11. Sorry, I'm behind the 8 ball here. I beg your pardon. There we go.
Yeah, again, resolution of these isn't too great sometimes. But in that article, we've got Stephen Kaplan, who's the director of Parapsychology Institute of America in New York. That was a mouthful.
Wasn't it?
And he's basically quoted as saying, what you have here is someone taking a case of psychokinesis and blowing it up into a story about demons.
Yeah, that I totally agree with that. Actually, that's a really good. That's. I mean, well, we've spoken about the poltergeist thing before on the old Paranormal Pals podcast, and I've said then that as a parapsychologist myself, I would totally go with the recurrent spontaneous psychokinesis occurring with poltergeist activity. So you have a human focus. There's a human element in it. So I would totally agree with them on that.
And then you've got Paul Kurtz, who's the spokesperson for, here's another mouthful, the scientific investigation of claims of the paranormal in Buffalo, New York, who basically said, all this is uncorroborated mishmash, which is code for bullshit, that seems to just involve superstition. So, you know, these are highly academic people. They're not just, you know, your old Joe Blogs.
This was the old Psy-Cops, was it?
Yeah.
Which is now the Centre for Skeptical Inquiry, or the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Which is what Kenny Biddle is part of. He does a lot of fantastic dives into this as well.
Yeah, that's the one. I've lost what slide much. Oh, there we go. Right, so the amazing Kreskin. So this is a newspaper article from October 86, and this guy Kreskin was a mentalist. He haunted a 19th century West Pittston home, which was just down the road from the Smurls, just to prove a point that demonic activity can be not demonic but mimicked by a human. So he's quoted as saying there that a person who can influence human behaviour can alter reality and not use any trickery, purely by the power of suggestion. And a person who has the gift of communication can cause people to see things that aren't there or to misinterpret things that are there. So you don't need trickery of any physical means. You can use the power of ideas.
I'd go with that too.
Yeah. So in he basically demonstrated to people that you can make these things seem more than they are. So he managed to cause a block of wood tilted against a book to fall over from way, way away. And he had glasses of water on a table, and he was about 12 feet away, and he managed to make them fall off the table. He wouldn't reveal his secret, but he did say it has nothing to do with supernatural stuff. So that was just his way of saying, you know, this stuff can be purely physical, not supernatural or psychological, I guess. So the Smurls had a press conference in August of 85, and the Warrens were there, and Psychop was there, etc., etc. And there should be a slide coming up from the Courier Press about that. Yep, that one there. Reporters were excluded from going into the house. Psychop was refused entry into the house, even though the Smurls had invited them and offered them help, such as psychiatric assessments, camera systems to record stuff, social workers. And when they got there, Ed Warren basically told them to F off and called the cops and got them removed. But during the press conference, reporters were getting annoyed too because they wanted to see evidence. And one reporter is saying, show us something, give us something to go with. And Ed replied, we're giving you everything you're going to get. If you can bring up a couple of priests to help these people, fine. But we really don't have to give you anything. For one thing, you're obnoxious. Well, that's the pot calling the kettle black.
You took that right out of my mouth. Hot kettle black.
I know. Yeah. So that's just an example of what I'm going to say, arrogance.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's the photo of the Warrens at the press conference on the balcony, which is, the next one in the, that one there. And Ed's being very theatrical, as he does.
As you do.
So next we're going to move on to, and just stop me, Trace, because I can't see the chats.
Oh, right. Okay. I will.
If you need to. So we're going to go into a couple of the individual claims. So the first one we're going to look at is the leaking joints. So back in 1974, and this goes back to the timeline again, the Smurls started renovating the duplexes. They had issues with 30 joints in the pipes under the house, and they kept leaking. So John Smurl, who was the father-in-law, was an experienced welder, and he soldered the joints together. They leaked. Soldered them together again. They leaked, and this happened about 3 times. So they claimed that was paranormal. Now, Kenny Biddle has a video where he's gone into the Smurl Haunting, and I think that's in our description, isn't it, Tracy?
Yep, I have. I've linked the full video. You saw a snippet of it earlier of Lorraine interviewing the Smurls. I've linked the full video in our description, so you can go and watch the whole thing for yourself. The sound is quite bad on it. The visuals are very bad. The recording's very bad, but we are talking 1986.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And also Kenny Biddle's dive that he's done into it, which is very good. Kenny Biddle from the Centre for the Committee of Skeptical Inquirer, I think it's called. His link to his video is in our description. And there is also the Truth or Dare podcast, the fantastical Stevie, who does some amazing deep dives into the cases of the Warrens. Her link is to her channel is also in the description.
Cool. Awesome. So just in relation to the leaking joints, in the Kenny Biddle video, he has interviewed Jason Hawes. I don't know who will recognise that name. He is a paranormal investigator, or was, for ghost hunters. Don't know if he's still doing it. But he's also been a plumber for... He is?
Yeah.
But he's also been a plumber for 30 years, so he would know about welding and soldering. So what he's saying is basically John Smurl was a welder, not a solderer, and they're 2 entirely different processes. John Smurl has gone and soldered, and he's more than likely forgotten to put the flux inside the pipes. Watch the video for a better description, which means they won't seal, so they leak. So he's basically saying just because you're a welder doesn't mean that you can solder. So that's just an explanation for why those pipes would have leaked, possibly.
Which is a very good explanation, actually.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Have I missed a slide here?
No.
So we've got the issue of the wardrobes. So there's some slides coming up from around the house. So this is the Smurls' master bedroom, and they are leaning against the troublesome wardrobe that they've complained about. And then we've got Lorraine Warren, who's showing how to easily open their wardrobe despite claims that the Smurls couldn't replicate it. And this is Heather and Dawn, and that's their wardrobe, which literally backs right onto the parents' wardrobe. And they complained that they heard rapping coming from the back of it. And just another point to make, they've got a tape recorder there and they took recordings. Why have we never heard of those? Where did they go? And that is Lorraine Warren opening their wardrobe door just to show that they were hearing rappings from the back. So, in the interview, the video interview, Janet goes into great detail describing how she couldn't try and replicate this louver door opening and shutting, and she said it would open and shut in quick succession. She tried to recreate it, but she couldn't. So Lorraine goes upstairs and bang, she opens it straight away. And she actually says in the interview, that was easier than it was earlier. So she's literally debunked what her own clients are saying. Yeah. And same with Dawn and Heather. I just wonder if there's some sort of connection because these wardrobes are backed onto each other and they both have coming. Is there something more mundane to it? Is it subsidence? Is it something else?
Well, which was happening because their homes were all in that area were all built on top of old mine shafts, and there was garages subsiding and there was houses slipping and all sorts of things happening.
I think they lost about 30 houses, or was it 13 houses in the 30s when a lot of houses just literally sunk into the ground.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And then I think you've got a bit on the smell.
Yeah, constant stenches and stuff. And I think that's one of the next slides coming up.
Where am I?
Slide 20.
That's it.
Yeah, so we've got foul odors, and as soon as a foul odor come up in the house, it was the demon. No, nothing else. It was the demon. That's all it was. So the smell of raw sewage overwhelmed Mary Smurl, who was the mother-in-law. Mary told Janet she found a stench in her room so bad she couldn't go in there. Jack's office at work claimed to have smelled when he was around, but only when he was around. And Janet reported their van on the way back from shopping one day stunk like a mofo. And the house was stinking of fecal matter at one point. So this slide here.
I'm just going to stop there for a second.
Okay.
Because Tone's just come up and he's corrected himself in a comment afterwards. But he said, "Cows, you win. You've convinced me. It's all a crock of shit. Pipes should have been brazed, not soldered." Nice one,
Awesome.
Tone.
That's a win for us. You can't thank me, though. It's Jason Hawes. I was just repeating what he said.
Okay, continue on with the whole town smelling like sewage.
Yeah, so you've got the Facebook post up. Yeah. So this is a post from the Pittston area community page, and it was from April 24. But if you look at a lot of the comments, there's some pretty logical, mundane explanations, and some of them claim it's been happening for decades. So, yeah.
Interesting to note that they say something about the stormwater and the sewage is actually mixed, and that's why when it rains heavy there, you get that sulfuric smell. Also coming up from the mines.
Yeah. Like there's a sulfury smell coming from the mines because they're just full of stagnant water, just sitting there and doing God knows what. But also it would be interesting to try and match up with the claims of the odors, what the dates were and what the weather was doing, because if it's been raining, well, that would explain it.
That would be interesting.
But like you can see in the comments, there's people in there going, "Oh, it's always stunk, it's always been like that," and fairly logical explanations. So that's just another thing to check off the list. But I did have a look at an article from the Department of Environmental Protection in the US, and there was an article there where they addressed complaints regarding sewage and sulfur-like smells. They said they couldn't link the odours back to subsidence or any underground mines, but they couldn't say it wasn't that either. And they were just continuing to research it. So that's reasonable doubt in my mind. So that's another one with a cuckoo. One of the hardest ones for me personally to read about was the attacks on Simon the dog. So this is slide 21. So he was a 3-year-old German Shepherd. He was a really beloved member of the Smurl family. So there's claims where one day Janet was in the kitchen doing dishes. Simon would always lie on the floor next to her, and all of a sudden he got levitated up and smashed against the wall, and he was howling and crying, and she cuddled him and he came right. And then later on that day, she's in the kitchen again, Simon's on the floor, and all of a sudden he just started to buckle and yelp in pain and convulse in really unnatural ways. And she said his screams were so bad that she was literally in pain. And then there's another claim of the dog dematerializing right in front of Janet's eyes, howling, and then rematerializing. This is all from the book.
Oh, yeah. Sounds like the book's like a little bit like the movie.
Yeah. And then there was the other instance. So this is where the staircase comes in. There was a claim that Jack and an investigator were sitting on the very top stair. So Simon was blocked in the top hallway there where the bedrooms are. And they're chatting away, and he's like, oh, where's Simon? So he goes, Simon. And Simon comes toddling along the bottom of the lounge and up the stairs from the bottom. Yet how could he get past them? But the thing that cracks me up about that is I've just claimed he can dematerialize.
Yeah.
So, hello? Like, get your story
I
straight.
also think, and it's something that we do need to keep in mind, that there's no timeline on when these things happen to the dog.
No.
The dematerializing could have happened further down the track. So when some things are being reported happening to the dog, this dematerializing thing hadn't occurred at that stage. And I think this is where a whole bunch of stuff's getting lumped together. And really, we need to see a timeline, and then we can understand some of these things. But we're not seeing a timeline. We're not seeing a detailed timeline.
No. Even the book doesn't really set out dates, like, oh, on this day or at this time, la, la, la. But the book was written in it was released. Yeah, the book was released in 1987. So that's years after things have happened. But then Janet Smurl supposedly kept a diary, so surely she would have written that down. But the thing that really grots me off is if your dog is crying in pain and yelping, wouldn't you take them to the vet?
Oh, hell yeah.
Wouldn't you get them checked out?
Oh, hell
no
yeah.
No mention of it.
Yeah, that's where there's big gaps. And that's why it's something, like 2 and 2 isn't making 4.
No, but I think it's just because it's an animal, it really grots me.
Yeah, well, it would be too. And I also think because certain people, or should I say because of the people that were investigating this, I think this is probably why we don't have a very detailed timeline of when things occurred, and which could clear up a whole bunch of our questions and could clear up a lot of people thinking that it was fake if we had a detailed timeline of when these things occurred. But when you're getting told that it started not long after they moved in 73, and then we're getting told in an interview that it started in 85, what the hell? Which one is it, guys?
It's all about controlling the narrative to their own agenda.
And I wonder who did that.
Yeah. No prizes for guessing.
Yeah.
So, the bite marks, slide 22.
Yep, on it.
Yep. So, Chris McKinnell was part of the team who would quite often go and investigate the Smurl's house because, contrary to popular belief, it wasn't always Lorraine and Ed Warren. They did go a couple of times, but the majority of their contact was through the phone, and they sent their own team up to investigate.
And Chris McKinnell is their grandson.
Yep. So while he was there with the rest of the team one day, Jack was in the shower, Janet's husband. He was bitten 3 times on the ear by something. He didn't know what it was. At first he thought, oh, maybe it was a wasp. But then he thought, oh, no, it's February. And over there, February's winter, isn't it? So it's not wasp time. He came down from the bedroom and his whole ear was bright red. And this is from the book. Chris was snapping photographs for later evidence. Where are they? Can't really say much more than that.
I see Ed jumped straight to the mocking of a Trinity. So the mocking of the Trinity straight away.
Yep, 3 and the 3 multiples of 3 wrappings and multiple of 3 this. It's mocking the Trinity. La 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 la.
La 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 la.
So then there's some concept. Oh, sorry. I thought someone said something.
Yeah, Cameron said, I've got the photos. Tracy has them. I swear, honest.
Hand them over. That's not fair.
Excuse me. So we're on slide 23 now, which is
the one.
excuse me, the psychic sleep stuff.
Yeah, interesting. As you can see, there was mention in the book, because there was a few incidences where either Janet or Jack would have an experience, and the other one would apparently be so far into a psychic sleep they literally couldn't raise them no matter what. And Janet did a lot of research in the library when things first started happening, trying to figure out if she could figure out what it was. And she did mention it was mentioned in the book, but I think it came from the Warrens as well. And as you can see in the book there, it says that psychic sleep is, it doesn't actually give the definition.
No.
But no. So psychic sleep,
yoga, isn't it?
Yeah, I looked it up because I'm like, psychic sleep. I've heard of sleep paralysis, which I would have thought more towards. I was like, psychic sleep. So I looked it up, and it's a state of deep relaxation in which conscious mind goes to sleep, but the awareness remains active. So if someone's trying to raise their partner and they're in a psychic sleep, they're going to be fairly easy to raise, I would have thought. I think it's more likely they were suffering from sleep paralysis, if anything.
Could very well be, which could explain him seeing the succubus and all the rest of it.
Yeah. According to the Sleep Foundation, sleep demons are frightening phenomena that are all too real for people who experience sleep paralysis. Roughly 20% of the people have an episode of sleep paralysis, at least occasionally. And it's a vivid, terrifying hallucination that some people experience during these episodes, where the body is unable to move while falling asleep or waking up. They might feel a heavy pressure on their chest, sense a threatening presence, or even see figures, commonly classed as demons. So I would be leaning towards sleep paralysis for that. That's just my opinion.
Next one.
24. So this is, I'm just going to go into some theological skepticism. Susie's going to go more into that side with the priests and what have you. But in general, they were pretty skeptical. The Roman Catholic Church officials said they're taking their tale seriously, but they're unconvinced it's the work of a demon. We don't know what it is that's the problem, said Gerald Mullally, but we believe what the family is telling us. It's the explanation. Sorry. It's the explanation for what they're experiencing that they're not sure of. Right. So they're not saying they're not experiencing stuff. They just aren't convinced it's supernatural.
Right.
Yeah. And then the continuing leading times. They said a Roman Catholic priest has twice tried and failed to rid the home of demons. And again, we're taking it seriously, but we just don't know if we're convinced it's supernatural. And then Reverend Trebold is actually a theology professor. And he was asked by the Scranton Roman Catholic Diocese to look into it. He was trying to determine whether the manifestations are true and not just a matter of misjudgment, hallucination, or illusion. He said such disturbances may be caused by the living persons who have psychological powers. Sometimes they can be tuned subconsciously or unconsciously, but they can result in strange sounds and strange occurrences. So this is a member of the church, but he's a parapsychologist too, so he can kind of see both sides
of the coin. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's saying, the mind can absolutely manipulate matter. Usually it's a teenager, but he said it's not always the case, which is what you see in your old poltergeist hauntings.
Aye.
And just a little thing I found a bit interesting, slide 27.
Yep, on it.
Yeah. So this is near the end of the book, and they said Monsignor Eugene Clark was eventually dispatched to stay overnight and perform an exorcism, but he didn't find anything. And apparently the Warrens claimed that that was because the demon knew they were coming, and so they kept quiet. But yeah.
And I'm just reading that little clip there, and it says that the Chancellor, also present at the meeting, stunned the couple when he said that there was no reason whatsoever to talk to the Warrens, because from this point on, the diocese itself was taking over the investigation.
Yeah.
To which Janet said, but Ed and Lorraine have been a tremendous help to us, and we haven't met anybody who understands the supernatural better than the Warrens. But the Chancellor shook his head. The diocese would be taking over the investigation. As far as the official church was concerned, the Warrens were no longer involved.
Yeah. And then the Warrens threw their toys out of the cot. When you read
another case they were, this is another case that they were kicked out of.
Yeah, funny that.
So moving on to the next one.
Oh, so we come to the question, did the activity continue in the house after the Smurls left Chase Street? So in the book, The Haunted, right at the start, it insisted that before the Smurls moved in, there was a history of issues. It didn't say what the issues were, but residents who wished to remain unnamed said for decades there'd been stories about it. Sometimes the police were called to investigate, but yet the police have no evidence of those investigations. So again, it's just it's not a fact, it's just
hearsay. He said, she said.
Yeah. But then Ed Warren in 1988 in the TV interview said it was basically the Smurls' fault because they moved in knowing about the history.
Yeah.
But just before going public 3 years before, he told the Smurls. Oh my God. He told the Smurls that moving was pointless because it would just follow them. So it's like, it's your own fault for moving in, but now you're stuck here because you're just going to follow you anyway. But
which, according to the daughter I've been talking to, it has followed them.
Yeah.
And it's also followed their own some of their own children now.
Yeah.
So they get a film offer.
Yeah. And this has all come from Kenny Biddle's YouTube video. And another interesting audio interview that Kenny Biddle played in his YouTube video was interviews with a previous owner. So there was him and his cousin. They owned 328 and 330 before the Smurls moved in. And he said, nah, we've had nothing happen whatsoever. Yeah. And then after the Smurls moved out, I am not having much luck at Alting tonight. Slide 30 there, the new landowner who bought it after the Smurls moved out, which was around 87, was quoted as saying it's a load of nonsense. He did have trouble renting the house out, but that's because the land agent had said that she was obligated to tell potential renters about the history, which she had. But he still nonetheless said he didn't experience anything in the house. And the issues with not being able to rent it was because of the notoriety of it.
And neither did the lady who moved in after them. What was her name? Doris? Oh, I can't remember. But she turned around and said she's had absolutely nothing. There's not been absolutely anything remotely that could be considered paranormal in any way, shape, or form since she moved in.
Yeah. And that's not to say that nothing was happening in the house when the Smurls were there, but it does make you question what was causing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're nearly there, guys. I think.
That's the last slide.
That's it. So, yeah, in general, no one in the Smurl family has provided any empirical evidence. None of the Warrens have provided any empirical evidence, although they claim throughout the book that they've had recordings. But then there's been no observers let in independently to test their theories. It's all been the Warrens come in, they're the only ones that are allowed to investigate, and what we say goes, basically. I just don't understand, if you've got all this evidence, why you wouldn't release
Share
it to give credibility to your claims.
I was just going to say, if you want people to believe the claims that you're making, then you need to front up with something credible to prove that, because you're the one making the claims. You need to prove those claims.
Exactly.
Otherwise, don't expect people to take you for real. I think actually the whole case was, I mean, there could have been something very well paranormal happening. I just think the whole case was so badly dealt with from the onset that there's just too many questions, and they're never going to get answered. Let's face it.
No. And that's the whole point of empirical evidence, because the whole case seems to be based on hearsay. If there was empirical evidence, you'd at least weigh it up and go, yeah, nah, we need more. But I just don't understand, if they're genuine, why they wouldn't let people in. They're either lying about the fact they had the evidence, or, well, I'm not going to speculate, but yeah, it just doesn't make sense.
No. I'm going to hand it over to you, Susie, because you're going to do a bit of a dive into the priests that were involved.
Yeah, I'm going to try and keep this as brief as possible because I'm conscious of the time.
Sorry.
You're right.
I am going to sort of preface this and sort of repeat a little bit of what Cal said, that in the book, The Haunted, it was noted that minor liberties have been taken with the chronology of events. Some scenes and dialogue have been recreated in a dramatic fashion. And some of the priests' names were changed for various publications. And in the book, there were two versions of the book. So the initial one had two priests' names as one thing. In the second version of the book, they were something completely different. So in the, I think it was the second version of the book, there was a Father Cartigan and a Father O'Reilly. Now, there is, I found zero information on Father Cartigan. He doesn't seem to exist. Father O'Reilly was born in Ireland, and he moved to the States, but he was based in LA. So in the mid-80s, he was a priest in LA. So I don't see how he could have been particularly involved. So whether it just happened being, O'Reilly being the name, that was just a name that was picked, and there's just a coincidence, because I couldn't find anything connecting him to the Smurl family or the Smurl case. The other one who was named in the first version of the book, Father Raymond L. Karsiak, this is another one I think is possibly a false name. It was said he was a long-time friend of the Smurls and was the first priest involved in the case, following a dinner at the Smurl home. And he was told about the problems they were having over dinner. Janet Smurl was quoted as saying, Father Karsiak went upstairs and he told us he realized he was in the presence of something evil. He said, you're nice, normal people, and this shouldn't be happening to you. As he talked, Janet noticed he began to sweat, and she got the impression the presence was applying pressure on Father Karsiak to leave the home. Even so, he went through the home, blessed each room, commanded the demon to leave, and for 3 days afterwards, everything was quiet, seemed fine, but a few days later, the activity returned. That's from the book. There appears to be no information on who he is, so pretty sure that's a false name. Reverend Mark Rossetti wasn't noted in the book. He was noted in a newspaper article, not a whole lot of detail, just stated that he went to the home. And again, I found very little information on him. He does exist because he was ordained in 1985. So he would have been pretty young, I think, at the time of all of this happening. But he unfortunately had a bit of a dodgy history, and got charged of some involvement with a young boy. But interestingly, one of the other priests involved in the Smurl case, Bishop James Timlin, who I'll talk about in a little bit, actually wrote to the Archbishop to request a new assignment, saying that he was no risk and he would personally provide his assurance to parishioners that he was at no risk in any way for anyone. So I thought that was a little bit interesting.
Susie,
I think that's disgraceful.
Well, it's disgraceful, but you know, when you think
So
about
just-
some of the stories about the Warrens,
yeah.
I,
you know,
I get on then, yeah.
just you know, little random connections.
Lona Muffin says a no risk padre who's already offended. Agreed, Lona. Agreed.
And you know, being charged. You know, his name wasn't made public until 1997, I think.
But he's not a risk, so it's okay.
Yeah, he's not a risk. He's okay.
He's done it. He's done it.
Yeah,
He's not a
but he's not a risk.
Okay.
Hey, I murdered someone, but I'm not a risk. It's all good.
The first one who does seem to be involved that I can find was Monsignor Francis Kane. So he was ordained in 1935 and was actually pastor of the Immaculate Conception Church in West Pittston from 1976 until 1985, and this was the Smurls family church. According to the book, he was called in several weeks after Father Carstiac's blessing, so whether there was another priest before or whether he was actually the first one. And he was called in following the incident where Mary Smurl found herself and her bed levitated into the air. He also just went through the home, blessed each room with holy water, and again appeared to keep things at bay for a few days, and then things ramped up again. He unfortunately passed away in 1999 at the Holy Family Residence in Scranton, so he stayed practicing in the area the whole time, basically.
But the thing is, with blessings, that's exactly what happens. And same as with clearings or cleansings, it's exactly what happens. It goes quiet, and then boom, it comes back with a vengeance.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking necessarily demons here, even just haunted by plain old spooks, not, demons.
Yeah.
Gosh.
So the Warrens were called in by the family after Monsignor Francis Kane to try and help. And the first priest to come in after that was Monsignor Eugene Clark. And I think I have a photo there. So he was actually the rector of the St. Pius Seminary in Dalton, Pennsylvania. And he was instructed by the church to stay overnight in the Smurl home on 3 separate occasions. And on all 3 occasions, he said, nothing there. Nothing unusual. He went on to be the pastor of the old St. Boniface Church in Williamsport, which was destroyed by fire in 1972. And this is him and some fellow clergy examining the ruins. And he was said to have led with vision and collaboration, forming the first parish pastoral council in the diocese, empowering parishioners to help plan and guide the development of a new church under the new Catholic regime.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. He passed away in 1990. Following him, and I'm not quite sure in which order these next couple go, was Bishop James Clifford Timlin. So he was born in Scranton, so from the area. He attended an evangelist primary school, graduated from the Holy Rosary High School in Scranton, and was ordained in 1951. In 1984, he became the first man born within the Diocese of Scranton to serve as its shepherd, and his 19-year term as bishop is the second longest in diocese history, so a little bit interesting. He intervened. Don't think he actually did a lot for the family, but he brought in Father Alphonsus Trabold, who Kels has already talked about. And according to some reports, they stopped the activity for a wee while, although that's debatable. And I actually wonder if he's possibly, because he's born locally, that he was the one named as Father Carstiac at the start. Just
right.
Things out there. Because there's no dates or sort of timelines there for him. Do I have a picture of him? And there's some photos of him throughout his parish career. Our next one is a Father Alphonsus Trabold. Oh no, that one. My slides are out of order. So he was a priest / exorcist from the Diocese of New York, and he worked at St. Bonaventure University as a lecturer. He was called in again from the church with the authority to do whatever necessary. He was an exorcist, a professor, and a paranormal expert. So he grew up with a keen interest in the paranormal, stating in a 2003 interview, "I've been interested in magic and witchcraft and the occult, both from the point of view of the paranormal powers and history." So very open-minded guy. He was ordained into the Franciscan order in 1951, which is a slightly different order to the rest of the priests involved. As we already know, he taught theology at St. Bonaventure, and he was there for over 30 years, retiring in the 1990s. His most popular course was religion and the paranormal, and he often left the front row of seats of his spooks class open in case any spirits wanted to join them.
He'd be an interesting chap to sit down with over a pint.
Absolutely.
Yeah, wouldn't he?
Yeah. And he was known as saying there might be other less demonic explanations for the activity happening. Going far in 1985 in an article for People Talk, he said he wouldn't even classify himself as an exorcist despite filling the role of exorcist for the Buffalo Diocese for several years. He believed his work was to counsel people who had some kind of supernatural or psychic experience and help them understand it, which sounds kind of logical. And then the next point is that he was consulted by the Warrens on a number of their paranormal cases, including the Lutz family case, which most people would know as the Amityville Horror.
Yeah.
But in his whole career, he only actually performed 2 exorcisms, neither of which were formal, as he didn't have permission from the bishop of the local diocese, and neither of which were successful. Doesn't say whether those exorcisms were for the Smurl family.
Right. Okay.
So, yeah, that's for people to make up their own minds there.
Quite an interesting mix for someone from. Was he Catholic or
Franciscan?
Franciscan Catholic, whatever. Yeah.
Well, regardless, it's quite an interesting contrast to have, like, because they're supposed to go in there thinking it's whatever, but he's got the parapsychological aspect as well. So he's looking for those sorts of explanations rather than just going straight to it's that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'm just going to jump back. So Bishop Robert Francis Fidelis McKenna is the one who is named the most. There seems to be the most information about. So he was born in 1927. He was raised Catholic in Michigan, graduated from Aquinas College, and he joined the Dominican Order in 1951, which is the same Catholic order that most of the other priests were involved in. So while he was ordained a Catholic priest in 1958 and then a bishop in 1986, after the Second Vatican Council became a thing, he became concerned with the ramifications of the reform and he removed himself from the order. Subsequently, he was excommunicated for that, although he did continue as Bishop of Our Lady of the Rosary Chapel in Monroe, Connecticut from 1973 onwards. In 1989, he was consecrated as the head Bishop of Catholics Forever, which is actually a group of former Catholics.
How does it work?
They call them Catholic traditionalists. They're the ones they're the ones that have broken away from the Roman Catholic Church after they decided that
what that is.
It was going to Mass was going to be said in English now and not Latin. And so they got up in arms, and it's been termed as believing in the old ways, which kind of cracks me up because that's the pagan ways, thanks. They believe in the older aspects of Catholicism. So you've got the Roman Catholics, then you've got the traditionalist Catholics who have broken away from the Roman Catholics, but then you've also got the Orthodox Catholics.
Yeah. So he was actually really good friends with the Warrens. And in total did more than 50 exorcisms across various cases at their request.
Yeah.
So absolute massive involvement. He performed 3 exorcisms at the Smurl home, 2 in 1985, 1 in 1986. All 3 failed. Interestingly, he and 3 other bishops issued a declaration, not about the Smurl case, but saying, "We, the undersigned bishops, called by extraordinary circumstances to preserve the sanctifying mission of the Holy Catholic, Apostolic, and Roman Church in default of a true Roman pontiff," mouthful, declare that contradicting the infallible magisterium of the Church regarding ecumenism, the present hierarchy following the false Second Vatican Council does not speak for the Catholic Church, which I guess, Tracy, is what you were just saying before.
Yeah.
He focused on the old ways.
Yeah.
So, yeah, none of his exorcisms were approved. And being that he was friends with the Warrens, were any of them proper exorcisms?
Well, I don't know, because I mean, when we're talking about exorcisms from the Roman Catholic Church, you're talking about a whole freaking process that's gone through, including the fact that they have to go through psychiatric testing. Yeah. Otherwise, the Roman Catholic Church will not touch them with a barge pole, and there will be no exorcism forthcoming. Yes, Cowles, put your hand up.
It's better than interrupting. I was just thinking about how his views being. Is this McKenna? Oh, McKenna's not the one that was a parapsychologist, is he?
No.
Oh, no, never mind. I was going to say, how does if he's good friends with the Warrens, how do they reconcile that?
Yeah, no.
But the Catholic Church actually came forward and said they did not officially endorse or claim any responsibility for any of the exorcisms, and that they had skepticism around the case.
Yeah.
The last priest that I have here is Reverend Joseph Adonzio, which I think there he is. Again, he became a priest after he graduated from the University of Scranton, so a local guy. He had a bachelor's degree of arts in philosophy, psychology, and education. He actually taught in public schools in English and Latin departments. He offered his first mass in 1956, serving as pastor of the Immaculate Conception Church, West Pittston, so again, the Smurls family church. And he was there from 1985 to 1999.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So according to multiple sources, he eventually ended the paranormal activity in the Smurl home in 1986 with intense prayer, following other priests' unsuccessful exorcisms. But Janet Smurl, in an interview in 1987, told reporters that activity was ongoing and that he hadn't solved anything.
That's exactly what the Smurl daughters told me. The activity is ongoing, although it quietened down considerably. It never stopped. And when the daughters moved out, it followed them into some of their homes. And with their children now having grown up and moved out, it's followed some of their children into some of their homes as well. So definitely a generational aspect happening here. I think they upset somebody and someone cursed their ass.
Yeah. Well, what else? What else can it be? But interestingly, that's 11 priests, of which 3 I think are fake. So, that's what.
Interestingly, Carol's has just put up, let's have a poll on your opinion on whether you think the Smurl case was demonic, a hoax, or undecided. Tony said he thinks it's an elaborate hoax. He's not seen nor heard anything that cannot be logically explained, and that there's simply too many anomalies.
Yep. Agreed.
I think that's a fair assessment, actually. Yeah. Sorry, Suze.
No, that's me.
That's you?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay, well, I'm going to be that person. I'm going to be that person, and I'm going to sit on the fence.
Grace.
Eh?
Come on. Really?
No, I am.
If there's doubt, throw it out.
I'm going to sit on the fence, and I'm not going to say that I believe it, and I'm not going to say that I disbelieve it. I'm just going to stick to the ground of where's the proof?
Yeah.
Because I can't make my mind up unless I see what you're terming. You guys are making claims. Show me the proof to back your claims up, and then I can make an informed decision on where I'm standing on all of this. And until they do that, I can't. But all I say is that it's very, very suspicious that they were offered help. They took it, and Mr. Warren stood on the steps and refused to let the people in who were going to help.
Mhm.
And I think there's only two reasons for that. One, his ego, it would steal his thunder, possibly. And two, it could also steal him making money from it, because that was their god. And three, if it was a hoax, then they could be showing up to be hoaxing the lot. And thank you, Cameron. Come and shake fence, you bastard. Yeah, bastard. But I mean, I don't know. What is the point? What would the Smurl? Oh, actually, Lona's just said it. Here we go. Yeah. Whoops. For it to be an elaborate hoax, what was there to gain? I think it
Money.
was only the Warrens who created a bigger story than it needed to be for monetary and more fame. Oh, I totally agree with you, but they did that with every single one of the cases. In fact, I know of a case, and I just wish I could remember which case it was, but I know of a case where they turned up to meet the family for the first time, and they had a camera crew and journalists in tow with them. And they got thrown out immediately because that was not the deal. Yes. Yes. Yes, Al.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm just going to put it out there and say that I think there was a lot of manipulation to suit certain agendas on the part of a certain couple, and may have even taken advantage of people that were in a position where they couldn't make up their own minds without being pushed into the direction that they were pushed into.
Being pushed in. Yep. No, I totally agree with you. Being led by the nose ring, basically, so to speak. So's.
Yeah.
I also wonder, me. Because of, sort of that 70s and 80s time point, there was, coming out of the 60s, there's some good hallucinogenic drugs. So
Yes.
there's that side of things.
Yeah.
And then also for me, I guess because I grew up in the 80s, because I'm that old.
Me too.
Talking about things like this was very hush-hush. You weren't open about it.
What are you talking about? Sorry, hallucinogenics? What?
So, like, just hauntings and things. Like, when I was growing up, it was very hush-hush. You didn't talk about experience. Oh, no. Because people think crazy. So, if Ed and Lorraine were able to manipulate people that had, whether it's decreased mental capacity, whether they were having, hallucinations due to drugs or previous drug use, or, they would have gone along with that. Whereas a lot of the people involved in the background, some of the priests and things like, we don't want our names out there because we don't want to look crazy. So, I think that could be why there's a lot of name changes, a lot of, missing dates as well. I still think it's pretty fake for a lot of it. Like, I don't think what they experienced, I'm not going to say what they experienced is fake, but I think it's been over.
I think the package that how it's been packaged up and put towards the general public is fake. I'm not going to say that the actual Smurl family haunting was fake, because I'm not in a position to say that.
No.
I'm just saying that the package that it's been put into and shoved out to us. Yeah. Absolutely, without a word.
Yeah.
Now,
I think they definitely experienced what they experienced, but the reason for it was put as something that it probably wasn't. But yeah, as you were.
Well, yeah, exactly. The way it's been packaged, as I say, they haven't. Yeah, I don't see any investigating. I see some questioning happening, but I don't see much investigating going on. And how can you determine what it is from asking or having a 2-hour interview with somebody? That's not the way it works.
And if it was a court of law, it'll be chucked out. End of story.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. And yeah, you know, fantastical claims call for some fantastic evidence, and I'm not seeing any at all.
Yeah, where is the evidence? Where's the recordings? Where's the, you know?
They've just disappeared into the ether.
Yeah.
Cameron, just slightly off track, guys. Cameron, you're quite right. He just said, didn't the Ed and Lorraine end up as a murder-suicide? And then he goes, oh, wait, I'm thinking about Mark and Debbie Constantino. Yes, you are thinking about Mark and Debbie Constantino. Yeah, that was a thingy, murder, unaliving. Gosh, I can't.
Murder-suicide.
You can't say things on YouTube like that. Oh, my God. We'll probably get this video banned now because we've said that. It was a murder unaliving.
Are you not allowed to say the S word now on YouTube?
No, not on YouTube, apparently.
Oh, FFS. That's ridiculous.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it. Okay, well, I think we've pretty much done that case to death.
Yep.
Don't you?
Think so.
I think we're between all of the stuff that I've seen other people doing and all the stones that we've managed to overturn and have a look under, I think it's pretty much a done deal. And don't forget, guys, those links are in the description if you want to go and watch Kenny Biddle's breakdown of it, if you want to go and watch Stevie from Truth and Demons podcast, all her delving into the Warrens and unearthing fantastic information that is proving lies, and also the Lorraine Warren interview with the Smurls is also linked down in the description if you want to go through and have a look at it. It makes for interesting reading, to be quite honest with you. And so that concludes this week's live stream.
Woo-hoo.
And next week, what are we doing next week? We are looking at the next Freaky Friday. We will be doing one of our New Zealand haunted case files, and we will be looking at the Waitomo Caves Hotel. So join us 8:00 next Freaky Friday for a chat about the Waitomo Caves Hotel and the legends that surround the hauntings there. So we'll see you then, guys. Until then, have a great week. Take care. Stay dry.
Bye.
Peace out. Bye.
My hands are disappearing.